Hi everyone, it's Trevor from Ostrich Longneck here. Travis and I decided to go to the New York Comic Con this year, which is why we haven't posted many build videos lately. I got us a couple of plane tickets, a hotel room and a great tour package. Here are a few highlights of our adventure in the magnificent New York City. After months of waiting, we were finally ready to embark on our great New York adventure. After a 16-hour flight and 2 good meals, we eventually landed at the John F. Kennedy Airport and checked into our hotel. We did not get a room with a view. Our flight arrived before 8 in the morning, so we jumped right in and started sightseeing immediately. Our hotel room was only 3 blocks away from Times Square, which meant our first stop had to be Madame Tussaud's Waxworks Museum. Being October and close to Halloween meant that there were a lot of spooky ghost-themed figures on display. One of the more fascinating exhibits was an animatronic puppet from the Broadway show Cats. It fascinated me how her creators were able to put so much movement and expression into her face. She was truly a robotic marvel. There were countless Waxworks figures of celebrities, and they were so highly detailed that many of them were indistinguishable from real people. I finally got to stand next to facsimiles of some of the people I had admired during my lifetime. The Halloween theme was further reinforced by an exquisite set of displays from the latest Ghostbusters movie. All of the ladies from the cast were featured as Waxworks figures.
I'm still working out some of the bugs on the stop panel, so I'm using remote activation button. Remember, try pulling only catch it.
And I especially liked the interactive Slimer hologram, which was one of the most impressive items on display. That evening, despite suffering from severe jet lag, we hit Times Square again, this time to take a haunted bus ride.
Hey guys, on the ride.
Oh,
and hold on tight.
Okay.
Because you're about to experience the greatest place in the world.
Australia.
This is New York City! In 3, 2, 1.
Suicide rays alright already. Streets so busy that you might get busy all time. The greatest of all time, New York City. I wouldn't worry about it. call it a ride. You never know what you might find. Who might dance, who might sing, who might ride. Is it the ghost? Is it the ride? Is it the host that might have no stone? It's the rolling. I'll tell you everything that you might do. This is so professionally. Everybody's running.
Shake it.
The bus trip featured several live performances on the streets of New York.
Is there any way we can help you? Any way we can help you?
I would love to be released upon celebrating New Year's, you see.
Oh, okay.
I missed out when I was last here. Would you happen to have any music?
Let's drop him a beat to ride.
Let's do it. When I say experience, y'all say the ride. Experience,
The ride.
Experience,
The ride.
And when I say hello, go ahead and say hi. Hello,
Hi.
hello,
Hi.
You see the women on the side chilling and expressing their joy for seeing you guys stretching along the Ave. Here up on the bus, now to them wave again, cause you know we all rushing. There it is.
Created by a man they called mad, it turned loose to strike terror into the hearts of men. We shocked women into uncontrolled hysteria.
You're terrifying. That's.
I'm happy.
The ride liked it. This is.
It's just a jump to the left, and then a step to the right. With your hands on your hips, put your hands on your hips. You bring your knees in tight, and it's a pounding throb. That'll make you go insane. Let's do the time war begin. One more time. Let's do the time war begin.
The highlight of this tour was of course the fountains of Columbus Circle, which are spectacular at night. Towards the end of the tour, King Kong launched an attack on the bus, but luckily we survived the onslaught.
Oh my God!
Is everyone okay?
Oh,
I'm afraid.
are you all right?
Give yourselves a round of applause for hanging out.
Oh my God! Man, that spirit really just went ape. Oh, that was bananas.
Day 2 was jam-packed with sightseeing. We hit the subway early and caught a train to the 9/11 memorial. It was so peaceful and serene, a solemn reminder of the tragedy which occurred there in 2001. Afterwards, we went to the 9/11 Memorial Museum. It was a humbling experience to stand in the very foundations which supported the massive twin towers of the World Trade Center and witness the aftermath of the havoc which took place on that fateful day. At 12 o'clock noon, two bagpipe players from the NYPD stood at the foot of one of the support pillars and paid tribute to the victims of the 9/11 attack. Next up, we caught the ferry to Liberty Island to see the Bronze Lady herself. The Statue of Liberty Museum displayed all the engineering and ingenuity which went into the construction of this iconic landmark.
Over the next year, atop the new pedestal on Bedloe's Island, the statue rises again, now to an astounding 305.5 feet, from the ground to the top of her torch.
When viewed up close, one can appreciate the immensity of the statue, and also appreciate what it's come to symbolize for all the oppressed nations of the world. We returned to shore amid some breathtaking views of the Manhattan skyline. Next on our list was a visit to the East Coast War Memorial at Battery Park. This memorial honors all of the American servicemen who lost their lives in the Atlantic Ocean during World War II. We finished the day with a sunset tour of the Manhattan coastline on the Clipper City tall ship. We sailed past the Statue of Liberty, Governor's Island, Ellis Island, and Brooklyn Bridge. The view was absolutely breathtaking. Day 3, of course, was the first day of New York Comic Con. I managed to buy Comic Con badges for 2 of the days, Thursday and Saturday. On Thursday we arrived at 10 a.m. and stayed through until 7 p.m. that evening. But there was honestly so much to see and do at the con that I'll have to put all of that into a separate video. Here's a small spoiler alert.
All right, get ready. Give it up. MSG welcome for Sir Patrick Stewart.
Day 4, which was a Friday, was one of the big highlights of our trip. This was the day we visited the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum. First off, we were allowed to see the inside of the USS Growler, a submarine which was built during the Cold War. We went through doors and hatches and were allowed to view the submarine from bow to stern.
You came on board brand new, 17 years old, out of shore school on Saturday, and the boat sailed on Sunday. This is your first job, driving the boat. Everybody on board knows how to drive the boat. So on a 2-month patrol, you got 1 shower. And the air got a little nasty in here for 3 reasons. 100 guys know the showering. And in fact, there was enough water for showers. The first guy who got to take a shower was the cook. The second guy was the medic. And then they hold the lottery. And a lot of times whoever won the lottery, they'd just sell it to somebody else, make 25 bucks. We've had guys tell us, the worst thing I ever did on patrol was take a shower. Because then I really noticed how nasty it was.
After touring the Growler, we moved to the hangar deck of the USS Intrepid herself. The hangar deck houses a lot of interesting displays. Including an impressive scale model of the aircraft carrier, the optical landing system, the propeller, some aircraft, and an ejection seat. There was also a Gemini space capsule, which I just had to try out for size. The flight deck of the Intrepid was magnificent. It was a cornucopia of aircraft from all around the world. There was a Cougar, a Tiger, an Intruder, a Tomcat, the Mach 3 Lockheed A-12, an F-16A Fighting Falcon, and a lot of other wonderful examples of aircraft from all over. While everything so far held both of us spellbound, personally, my only reason for coming to the Intrepid Museum was this: an honest-to-goodness, real-life space shuttle, the Enterprise. I literally had to catch my breath before entering the Space Shuttle Pavilion. Being so close to this magnificent machine that one could almost touch it was a dream come true for me. Next up, we did a tour of the USS Intrepid's island.
So even though the Admiral outranks the Captain, Captain still has the overall responsibility for the safety of the ship. It is and always will be the Captain's ship.
We wrapped up our visit to the Intrepid Museum by having a quick look at the British Concorde. We finished off day 5 with a night trip to the top of the Empire State Building. Once again, we were under attack by the big ape himself. Luckily, we escaped with our lives for a second time and could enjoy the beautiful vista of New York City by night. Day 5 was the Saturday of New York Comic Con, but more about that later. Sunday, which was day 6 of our stay in New York, saw us visiting Central Park. Our first stop was the Bethesda Terrace and Fountain. We moved through the Trefoil Arch, and passed by the Loeb Boathouse, where you can rent a remote control sailboat. We went to say hello to Alice, passed through another arch, and made our way to Belvedere Castle. This castle affords one a bird's eye view of a large portion of Central Park. Another attraction worth visiting is Shakespeare's Garden. We spent the rest of Sunday at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. There's so much to see at the Met that one could easily spend days looking at all the exhibits. From ancient Greek and Roman pottery to paintings by the great masters such as Renoir, Picasso and Salvador Dali. Monday, which was day 7 of our stay, started out fairly well. We did a tour of the Basilica of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. This was followed by the Catacombs by Candlelight tour underneath the cathedral. The rest of the day was a bit of an embarrassment, as I managed to get us completely lost on the subway. In the end, all we did for the rest of the day was to go and see the Joker movie that evening. Day 8 was a bit more eventful. We started off with a National Geographic exhibit called Ocean Odyssey. I must apologize for the video footage, as my camera switched from HD to VGA mode, and I never even realized until I edited this video.
The young dolphin is also vulnerable.
Ocean Odyssey encounter was an immersive and highly interactive experience.
As the sun sets, we invite you to swim into the magic of the reef at night. This is how many marine creatures see the reef. Through their eyes, it appears in these fluorescent colors. On the walls and floors are animals that create their own light. Your movement will trigger a light-producing chemical reaction called bioluminescence. It's okay to touch this coral, but touching real coral would kill it.
A lot of emphasis was placed on conservation and preservation of our dwindling ocean resources. It was a real eye-opener. After the ocean encounter, we paid a visit to the American Museum of Natural History. Of course, the best part of the museum were the extensive dinosaur exhibits. There were many other things to see. The Native American and African wildlife exhibitions were excellent too. We ended the day by attending the Broadway production of Beetlejuice the musical. On Wednesday, day 9 of our adventure, it was pouring with rain. So we decided to see another movie, and once the weather cleared up, we went for a tour of the Rockefeller Center. The tour highlighted a lot of the art which adorned each of the 19 buildings which make up the large Rockefeller Center complex. We then went to the top of the rock observation deck for a panoramic view of New York at sunset. And with that we left the observation deck and had some supper at the Cheesecake Factory. Day 10 was the last day of our trip. I got a couple of tickets for the hop-on hop-off big bus tour, and we took a leisurely ride through the streets of Manhattan. We went down Wall Street and past the New York Stock Exchange. passed right by the One World Trade Center and then followed the Hudson River all the way back to Times Square. All too soon it was time for us to pack up and fly back home. New York has always been my favorite city in the whole world, so this phenomenal 10-day adventure will be etched fondly in my memory for all my days to come. So long, and thanks for watching.